Notes on Stroke Recovery, Cognition, and Memory Loss. Number 1326, August 12, 2025. EclaireMD Foundation. Gerald C. Category: Stroke Recovery. Background: on June 21, 2025, I suffered a hemorrhagic stroke in the pons area, at the back of my brain. I spent 6 days in the hospital, the acute phase of recovery. The first 6 hours after a stroke are called the hyper-acute phase. From 6 hours to 7 days is the acute phase, from day 8 to the 3rd month is the sub-acute phase, and after that is the chronic phase. Today, I am in the middle of my sub-acute phase. This writing shares my self-directed recovery plan, focusing exclusively on my cognitive and memory functions. I consider myself fortunate that my recent stroke did not affect my mobility, hands, arms, or legs, or speech. Key principle of repetition and neuroplasticity. Stroke recovery relies on repetition. Repetitive work of exercise helps neurons rebuild or form new connections, strengthening brain pathways, a process called neuroplasticity. My memory impact. My stroke caused some short-term and long-term memory loss, such as forgetting street names in my neighborhood, certain foods I have eaten in restaurants, and the names of people I once knew well more than 20 years ago. To address this, I combine my 16 years of self-study in endocrinology and lifestyle factors, with my medical research on some major mortality diseases, and apply them through a set of intentionally designed self-recovery memory exercises. For example, I often review how many categories I have in my past research work covering both lifestyle inputs, such as diet, exercise, and sleep, and disease outputs, such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancers. Post-stroke daily training. After being discharged from the hospital, I read 3 books and 10 published articles on stroke, focusing particularly on post-stroke recovery, totaling more than 2,000 pages of information. Following this initial study, I began another exercise. Every day, I recall items I have seen, events I have experienced, videos I have watched, names of people in certain categories, and even details of my investments. I also look at a few objects or facts, then write them down a few minutes later without looking again. In addition, I keep a daily journal of these results, and assign a satisfaction score to measure how many items I missed or remembered. Over the past 3 weeks, my average score has been around 95%, for example, recalling 19 out of 20 items, which is encouraging compared to my immediate post-stroke state. Integration with my medical research work. In 2025, prior to my stroke on June 21, my research paper productivity averaged 1 paper every 1.5 days. After being discharged from the hospital and up to August 11, 2025, I completed 19 research papers in 44 days, averaging 1 paper every 2.3 days. I was surprised by this level of productivity, considering that I had just survived a brain injury from a stroke. My body indeed needs rest during this subacute period, so I have been sleeping a total of 10 to 13 hours each day, usually in 2 to 3 separate sessions. These observations probably tell me 2 things. My cognitive resilience and mental discipline are above average. My research work itself is probably acting as a form of cognitive therapy, helping me recover faster by constantly engaging my brain at a complex level. My past 16 years of medical research already requires extensive reading, self-study, online information searching, analytical thinking, massive data calculation, pattern recognition, finding illustrations, organizing, writing, and paying attention to detail. Now, by adding recall challenges, such as summarizing an article without referring back to it, I strengthen both memory and executive cognitive functions. I also prepare transcripts in Japanese and Chinese to post in my separate social media groups for both medical professionals and patients, as well as for general audiences via YouTube. I treat this as metacognitive strategy training. I am not just recalling information, but actively monitoring and refining how I think. I also gain a satisfaction feeling from audience responses, and the Q&A interactions with my social media followers, medical evidence and my own observation. Medical studies confirm that structured recall exercises are among the most effective methods for improving both short-term and long-term memory after a stroke. I consider myself fortunate that this stroke did not cause any mobility, arms or legs, or speech impairments. In my case, the memory loss I have experienced has not caused significant inconvenience in daily life, but I still aim to keep my memory in top condition at age 78. Remarkably, I have noticed that my cognitive ability in my medical research work, including the breadth of my perspective, the depth of my thinking, and the clarity of my illustrations, seems even sharper than before. Nearly 95% of my research papers are based on my 4 million data points, collected over the last 15 years, using math-physical research methods. About half of these have applied the viscoplastic energy medicine theory, VMT, to investigate nonlinear, dynamic, plastic, and irreversible biomedical systems. 8 days after my stroke, I began writing my medical research papers again. I knew that my old age had led to my vascular stiffness, as shown by my pulse pressure, PP equals SBP minus DBP, consistently above 50 in 2025. I also recognized that my stroke was directly linked to an acute episode of hypertension. 176 millimeters of mercury at hospital admission. On that day, I became angry with a real estate agent over an investment matter. This psychological stress triggered the hypertensive surge, which then caused my stroke. I should also note that I have not had chronic hypertension over the past 15 years. However, a single acute hypertensive event almost killed me. I have also observed a close relationship between the U.S. healthcare system and the pharmaceutical, insurance, and processed food industries through both my research and personal experiences in America. These connections can be seen and felt, but they are difficult for an individual like me to quantify. Another realization was the strong similarity between the research methods, styles, and objectives of my medical research over the past 16 years and the engineering research of my MIT advisor, Professor Norman Jones, from 60 years ago. Although our work was in two different fields, both focused on catastrophic or extreme cases, whether in structural and mechanical failures or in human diseases. In statistical terms, the outliers, noise, or extremities, advanced memory strategies. To further enhance recovery, I vary the type of my memory work. Visual, verbal, and numerical, to stimulate different brain networks. I also change the time intervals for recall. 1 minute, 5 minutes, and 30 minutes. I revisit the same items later in the day and track my accuracy over time. To measure progress of recovery, this strengthens both immediate recall and longer-term retention. Although most stroke rehabilitation research to date appears to focus on mobility and speech, my own literature search revealed very little discussion on cognitive and memory recovery. However, some studies published in Neurorehabilitation and Neural Repair and Stroke indicate that frequent recall practice, when combined with meaningful real-world activities, produces better cognitive recovery than either approach alone. My recovery method follows these principles, with the added benefit that my continuous medical research is deeply meaningful to me. Keeping my motivation high and my brain actively engaged. My broader subacute recovery plan. During the first 3 months, the subacute period, I already have 2 strong pillars in place: continuing my medical research and maintaining structured daily memory testing. In addition, I have added other self-recovery tasks to target different brain and sensory systems, without interfering with my existing routine. Cognitive and mental exercises. I practice dual task training by combining a thinking task with light physical activity, such as walking while naming countries, cities, or scientific terms. This helps reconnect different neural circuits. I also push myself to learn something entirely new, such as listening to music with focused attention, learning a new application software tool, or acquiring another unfamiliar skill, like memorizing 5 new Japanese words and 5 new Spanish words each day. To activate different brain networks, visualization is another method I use. I close my eyes and mentally rehearse a complex process, such as writing a paper, analyzing sensor data, or delivering a lecture, to strengthen prefrontal and parietal connections. Sensory and perception training. I train my visual attention by slowly scanning a scene from left to right, deliberately noting small details I might otherwise miss. I also practice multi-sensory recall by smelling, tasting, touching, or hearing something and then describing it in detail from memory later. Emotional and stress management. I include short mindfulness or breathing sessions to calm my autonomic system and improve focus. I keep a daily journal, not just to track memory scores, but to record emotions, energy levels, and small achievements. More importantly, I avoid engaging with people who bring negative energy into my life. These help prevent hypertension episodes. I cannot afford a second stroke, especially given that about 40% of stroke patients suffer another one. Closing self-reflection. By combining these activities with my ongoing research and memory testing, I am keeping my brain constantly engaged and stimulated from multiple angles. I hope this integrated approach could maximize my recovery during this critical 3-month subacute period. More importantly, my highest priority is avoiding another stroke. Life is precious, and I still have unfinished work in this world. Nothing related to fame, power, or wealth. I want to help more people stay healthy, unlike my own journey through obesity, diabetes, 5 heart attacks, near toe amputation from diabetic neuropathy, near renal failure, and now stroke. I have studied all of the aforementioned experiences in depth, and shared what I have learned from my own body with as many people as possible. I have also recognized the strong link between my physiological well-being and psychological health. My 9 years of self-study in psychology, from 2002 to 2010, along with my charitable work, helping 200 abandoned children and 50 abused women, have taught me the importance of avoiding engagement with people who display abnormal psychological behaviors. Furthermore, I have read over 250 textbooks on human behavior and abnormal psychology to strengthen my ability to protect myself from such influences. Disclaimer: the content of this article is for reference only and does not constitute professional medical advice. It must not be used as a basis for diagnosis or treatment. If you have any health concerns, please consult a qualified healthcare professional. This platform assumes no responsibility for any actions or consequences arising from the use of this article's content.